Well, I pictured more flashballs than I have.
We can accommodate.
The asteroid is on a collision course for Earth. We've contacted Bruce Willis, and it turns out he doesn't know anything about drilling or spaceships. So we talked to that Mohawk guy at NASA, and he thinks we're screwed. Thank you. What's up, guys?
Hey!
How's it going? Do I just talk, or do you guys want to ask?
Play by ear.
Can you talk about the asteroid? It's coming from out there. Think about that direction. I'm sorry, I didn't really research this, so we're just really all very scared. I'm Sam Witwer. I'm this guy. Hey. Hi. So I'm just gonna kind of, you know what I'm gonna do? Staring contest. Go. No, I can't do it. You guys wait. So, I don't need this many. Two's fine. So yeah. Basically, I act and do stuff. Hang out with you guys. Oh my goodness, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to know when your next album's coming out.
Oh boy, when's the next album coming out? Okay, so some of you guys may or may not know I'm a musician as well. I kind of do it for fun. I don't really promote it that much. And I released an album a few years back under the name The Crash Tones. The album was called Colorful of the Stereo, which is it's like a name. It's like you take the name The Color of Stereo, you translate it to Japanese, and then you translate it back to English, and you end up with Colorful of the Stereo. That's the only way I could figure why I needed that. Anyway, so there's another album. It's coming at some point. I'm making progress on it, but it's really hard to predict how long it's going to take because I don't do this professionally. I just kind of do it for fun. But it's a lot longer. It's a lot further along in the past half year than it was half year ago. By my calculations. So it's coming. It is coming. I have stuff on here. It's on here. It definitely is.
What do you think of the city of Boston?
It's wonderful. I haven't had a chance to look around this time, but I shot a pilot here a few years back with Dave Gentoli, the star of Grimm. We played brothers in this CBS family drama thing. And we were here for 2 weeks, and we had a great time. We had a wonderful time. Love Boston. And I wish we could have shot Being Human in Boston. That would have been like those people walking around with Quebec accents or something.
Speaking of being human, how was it when you were acting out as in that show?
It was extremely challenging. It's funny because there were other jobs that could have happened that didn't happen because of availability. And those jobs, one of them in particular is a huge show. Even now is a huge show, and I could have been on the ground floor of that. But the thing is I wouldn't have ended up as challenged as an actor because that job asked me to do what I already knew how to do. Being Human asked me to do a bunch of stuff that I didn't know how to do. For example, could I be funny if I was allowed to go over the top and be crazy? It's like, yeah, I could do that, sure. What I didn't know how to do, that Being Human needed me to do, was be funny while playing it totally straight and totally serious. And playing a character who was going through a lot of very serious things, but at the same time allow there to be comedy and humor, for the audience to laugh at him, even if he doesn't think it's funny. Let the audience laugh at that. So that was a whole skill set that I got to develop in Being Human. Honestly, I think I'm a better actor because of the damn show. So I have to thank them for setting me up with all that hard material.
What's up, Sam?
What's up?
I just wanted to ask you about when you were filming Human, the chemistry between you, the other Sam, and Megan was just so awesome. And what was it like to work with them?
Well, we had that chemistry immediately. In fact, it was so strong that the producers asked us to tone it down for the first 6 or 7 episodes. No, but seriously, they did. They said, they're like, well, we're worried about the chemistry. And we're like, you're worried about that? Come on, it's great. They're like, no, it's too much. We're like, oh, well, why? Because we've seen it, at least at that point, we'd all seen the first episode of the British series. And we're like, well, they had this really great comedic rapport. And they're like, yeah, but in their show, you never really had the sense for how long they were in that house. In ours, we know exactly when you got in. We know exactly how long you've been there. And if you guys are immediately just boom, 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 it's like, it's Three's Company. It's a sitcom. It isn't really a realistic show. Around episode 7, we will allow you to do whatever you want. Just be however you want. But honestly, until then, let it be a little bit stilted and awkward. But the first time I met Sam Huntington, for example, I was in the audition. I think they'd already told me I got in the role, but I was still going in. They were like, hey, it's you, but don't tell anyone. Which made the auditions a lot easier. So Sam Huntington sits down next to me, and here's me in the audition. Hey, Sam Witwer, how you doing? Hey. And then Huntington comes in. Hey, everybody! Hey! And he sits down, and I'm like, hey, Sam. He's like, I'm Sam too. Are you going gray? No, just kind of looks like, are you? I'm like, no, and thanks for doing that here, pal. There's all these producers. He's like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, and then we just started getting into this little argument. And in the middle of this argument, I'm looking over the producers, and they're just like, they're looking at us going. So I'm like, all right, well, it's going to be me and Huntington. And then later on, Megan Rath comes in, and she has teeth the size of my face. And it's the same type of thing, where we immediately knew it was going to be her. So we all got along right away. And then, then we went through the first season, and the first season was brutal. It just almost destroyed us all. Huge days. Our longest day was 22 hours. Whoa. And that was a Monday, too. We were all exhausted. I had lost about 20 pounds at this point. Like, if you watch season 1, watch my face. Watch how I look notably older, and my cheeks are shut down. Like, I get these huge lines here. And that's because I lost, honestly, no, I think about 25 pounds at that point. I was down to like 168 or something like that. And starting at like 190, right? You do the math. Shut up. So anyway, we're all super tired, but then some weekend we all managed to get sleep or something. It was the weirdest thing. We showed up on a Monday and we're like, hey, you look good. Yeah, you look good. Wow, you're looking really rested. Yeah, I got some sleep. It was amazing. Oh, this is great. You know what? We got 2 more weeks. Let's kick it out. This is going to be amazing. We were rested. Let's do this. 22 hours later. Oh, God. This show. So, but we got it done. But the thing is, after all of that exhaustion, and this is about the cast, after all of that exhaustion, we're just like done with the show. We finished at 6 a.m. one morning. I had just been fighting Bishop, and we were just all out of it, and then we're all like, oh, so you guys want to go to Hawaii? So we did. So after spending all that time with those people, the fact that we went on vacation together should tell you that we actually like each other. So, someone had a microphone over there.
Hey, Sam.
Hey.
Little off here, but really liked you as Starkiller in Force Unleashed.
Thank you.
Now, do you think you should appear as that character in the next 3 films, and do you think you can pull it off?
I think I'm too young to play him in the next 3 films. They'd have to get someone about 55 or 60 at least, right?
There's always CGI.
Not where JJ's concerned, pal. Ask Harrison Ford's leg about that one. Too soon? Too soon? No, he's fine. You've seen him. He's walking around and stuff. Harrison Ford's a badass. He doesn't care what I'm saying. So.
I probably don't need the mic, but on a scale of 1 to 10, and without spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the last season,
I haven't seen it yet.
how much fun was it to do your imitation of the Kool-Aid Man?
The Kool-Aid Man.
And was it in the script or ad-lib?
Everyone wants to call it an ad-lib, and no. It was Chris Dingus, it was in the script. And which I thought was appropriate. It's like, this guy, he starts out as a very, straight guy, and he's straighten out all the jokes and stuff like that. And I felt like by the end of it, he had to be at least a little bit silly, because he's hanging out with these yahoos all the time. It's gonna rub off on him, right? So when they started writing stuff like that, I felt like the character had gotten to where he needed to go, where he could, I'm not gonna ruin it, I'm not gonna spoil it. But the smile on my face was the glee, that was honest. Honest glee on my face. It was really, really fun to do that. We had, and we did that in one take, so that was cool.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to know what's in the pipeline in the future for you? What are you working on?
Who asked that? Is that? Oh, hi. I'm doing some voiceover for a game called Tales from the Borderlands, based on the Borderlands franchise. So that's cool. I mean, if that, we'll see. Did a Justice League animated film for DC that's coming out soon with Matt Lanter starring as Aquaman. Anakin Aquaman Skywalker. And then there's a TV gig that who knows if it'll happen or not. You just really never know until you're actually there and it's airing and all that stuff. So it's not anything that I can talk about. So, you never know. You never know with this stuff, but I've been busy.
Hey.
Hi. What's up?
So I went to a convention about 2 months ago, and I went to see Sam Huntington, and it was a small convention, not really big, but he did mention a little thing about how he was working with Sci-Fi to do a TV show, and he was working on a Hush Hush movie, all produced by himself. Do you happen to have any insight on that, or are you working with him on anything?
I know what he's up to. I don't know that I'm working on it. Although, he could always hire me. It's always an option. But yeah, I do know a lot of what he's working on because we're buddies. So I could also tell you, personal details about his marriage. What do you want to know? But Sam and I are close, so we talk a lot.
Hi, I was wondering what it was like when you were working on Smallville with Tom Wellings.
Well, I'm 6'1", so I'm used to being, one of the taller people on set. Not on Smallville. They could put something in their water or something. They all have giantism. And Tom Welling is like 6'3", 6'4". Justin Hartley's at least 6'2" or 6'3". Like everyone is tall. Even Allison Mack is taller than you'd think. So it was really irritating. Especially when I'm supposed to threaten that guy, and I'm like, "Hey man, stay away from Chloe. Get your damn hands off." You really think I would swear? Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah, George McFly shows up. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hi, Sam.
Raise your hand.
You there?
Hey.
Hi, can you hear me?
Your
and Mark Pellegrino's relationship on Being Human was pretty intense. He's pretty intense in everything I've seen him in. Is he like that in real life?
He is if you don't know him. I remember everyone was so excited to have him on set. I remember when they hired him, because me and him, I was aware of his work through various places, but we were in some of the same Dexter episodes together. We never actually worked together, but we were in some of the same Dexter episodes. So I was very aware of what he was capable of and how frightening the man was capable of being. And so I was definitely intimidated when they hired him, but I said, that's perfect. That's exactly what it should be. They need someone who's going to scare my character a little bit. That's excellent. And it was fun also to develop if you watch season 1, if Mark Pellegrino is sitting back and having a coffee, and if he takes a sip, Aiden will go. You'll see me react physically to everything he does while mouthing off to him, mouth off. But if he moves at all, Aiden will check the room, is someone there, what's he planning, And Mark definitely has an unnerving presence. I remember Sammy and Megan were so excited to meet him. They're like, Megan's like, "Oh my God, he's from Lost and this and that." And we're like, "Oh, yeah, Mark Pellegrino, anyone?" She's like, "No, he's not a dreamo." So Megan was all flustered and Sammy was excited. And because both of them are idiots. They didn't know how to talk to him, you know, so he should arrive outside like, hey everyone. And they were like, hey! And he's like, nice to meet you. And they're like, hey! And then they got, you know, they just didn't connect with them. Whereas me and Mark have sort of the same demeanor when we arrive on set. We're like, hey. So me and Mark, I went in to meet Mark, and it was like, hey. How's it going? It's all right. How's the flight? It's fine. Do you like Twilight Zone? Yeah, I do. I do like Twilight Zone. You want to talk about that? Yeah, isn't that cool? I did that. Oh, and that's literally how our first interaction went. Is we were just like holding our cards, and then somehow Twilight Zone came up, and then we started talking about Nightmare at 20,000 Feet and Shatner. There's a man out there, and all that stuff. And then everyone else got to know Mark better and realized that he's an extremely warm and open person. He's just not necessarily going to give it to you right away, you know. I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I'm giving it to you guys because you paid. No, but there are situations where it's to your advantage to hold your cards a little bit, you know, when it comes to going onto a set or something like that. And that's what he does. I support him. Don't let him know that I told you he's a softie.
Can I ask you to share some of your favorite memories from Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, okay. I remember one time everyone was talking about how they thought I had the best call sign. So there was a bunch of us on set talking about how we had the best call sign, because Crashdown's a pretty cool call sign. So is Apollo, so is Starbuck. But then I got to talking, we got to talk, I brought up, I'm like, guys, with all the people that are dying, because it was an episode where a bunch of pilots died, I'm like, do you think they start running out of call signs? You know, they're like, all right, we've got a very, you know, Apollo's up there. All right, we've got a very important mission. We need Starbuck, Crashdown, Boomer, and Spoon. Pencil, you might want to back them up. So it's just and so we were coming up with what are stupid, you know, call signs, you know. and Jimmy Bamber beat us all. Because he heard us joking, he wasn't really part of it, and then he walked in, and he started doing the briefing. He's like, all right, very important mission. Like he was doing the part that I was doing. He's like, all right, very important mission. We're gonna need Boomer, and Crashdown, and Steve. Which made us laugh really hard, because Steve is obviously, it's not the guy's name. His name is John. But it's call sign, John Steve whatever. I just love that Steve is what do we do? Steve. So there was that. There was also the last 2 days of season 1. We were on set, and it was the whole thing where we crashed on Cobalt, and I was pulling people out of the Raptor. We had 2 days of that, including the crash, including the when the windshield blows in on our faces, and all that stuff, all that stuff. And I had pneumonia, and James Callis got a concussion. And we were all falling apart. It was really awful and nightmarish, and I was not pleasant to work with, but I didn't want to tell people that I had pneumonia, because that might slow down production. So I was just a jerk to everyone, but I was very, very sick. So, I mean, I was nice to James Callis, and look where that got me. Anyways, do we have another question? There was someone over here that oh, go for it.
Hi. My question is, what is one of the most embarrassing or funniest moments that have happened to you on the Being Human set?
Embarrassing or funny moments. Okay, look, for people who haven't seen season 4, there's a little kiss that happens. At some point, there is a kiss. And for those of you who know which kiss I'm talking about, raise your hands if you know which kiss I'm talking about. Okay, good. So our crew are a bunch of really professional people. You know, like, you can't make these guys laugh. You know, when it comes to being on set and doing the job, no matter how many funny things we did in the middle of a take, they'd never make a sound, nothing. They were really fun between takes. You could make jokes with them, they'd laugh. But during takes, didn't matter how funny it was, they were just stone-faced. except for one scene. And so the shot is this kiss. And I won't give away what the kiss is. And the camera comes around me during this kiss, and it orbits. And because of that, the entire set needs to be cleared, and the entire crew needs to get behind the camera and walk with the camera, right? So here I am, psyching myself up for a new experience for me, you know? And so the kiss starts happening. They hit action. And I'm closing my eyes and trying to get through it. And in the meantime, orbiting around me, as my eyes are closed, I just hear this. The entire crew. Going around me, you just hear them snickering and stifling laughter as it's just coming around. Just, you know. And then when they hit cut, everyone screamed and howled in laughter. And then we did it like 5 more times. And then it was time to have Megan Rath come in and do it, and we did it once! Exactly. Another question?
Yeah, right now. Voicing a character versus playing the whole character, is one more difficult than the other? Do you like one better than the other? Are there pros and cons to taking, or just go by the role?
I like them both. Force Unleashed was an on-camera gig, mostly, that had some voiceover elements. All the cutscenes were on camera, but then all the in-game stuff was voiceover. So I had to start wrapping my brain around how to give that physicality without actually running through the woods or fighting with a lightsaber or something like that. You had to give like the sense of that. With honestly, like I think mixed results when it came to like my just straight voiceover in Force Unleashed. Although, you know, other things like, for example, you know, doing the voice of Palpatine in Force Unleashed, I think I did okay. But then when it came to Clone Wars, it was like game day. Like it was just voiceover, and so you get a sense really quick of like what works and what doesn't, and really it's all about filling out that physicality and asking questions to Dave Filoni like, is Dathomir cold, or you know, because that you'll hear that in the voice, or you know, are there explosions going off, you know, stuff like that. It's funny that, you know, the example I gave is like, did you guys know that there was a Ghostbusters video game that came out a little while back? And it was written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd and had the whole cast of Ghostbusters in it. And it was really funny, and Bill Murray is really funny in it. But it was clear that it was clear that they were afraid to give Bill Murray direction. Because, no, I mean, it's Bill Murray, how do you do that if you're not like Ivan Reitman? But you could tell that they were afraid to give him direction because Bill Murray, you know, he can be high energy Bill Murray, like, oh God, or you can be like low energy Bill Murray, you know? And he would be doing low energy Bill Murray in the middle of a big thing with explosions and stuff, and you're like, yeah, someone should have told him, you know? Someone should have told him that was happening. Whereas Dan Aykroyd, his character only has like one, you know, has a high pitched energy anyway. So he's like, oh, Beckman, we gotta go do this, Beckman, we gotta do that, we're gonna get some coffee, Beckman, oh, look at the slammer, Beckman, look out, fine, you know, he's doing all that. Even in an empty room, he'll do that, or if there's explosions, he'll do that. So he was, you know, he was always pitch perfect because his energy could match different situations. Same thing with like this voiceover stuff. You know, if you do something really kind of quiet, it may be appropriate in one environment, but if there's fighting going on, or if someone's yelling at you, you gotta match that, or, you know, so, and it doesn't ever feel totally natural, but then when you see it back, it all makes sense.
Hey, Sam.
What's up?
I just wanted to ask you, of the characters you played or voiced, which one's your favorite?
That's very, very difficult. That's very difficult. I kind of love all of them, really. I mean, they were all special for different reasons. I mean, Starkiller was like my entry into Star Wars. Darth Maul was, you know, me playing with fans wanting to kill me. You know, but it's an iconic villain, and we get to make his personality very specific. Aiden, I'd never had an opportunity to develop a character over 4 years. That was a new experience for me. So all of them, for different reasons, I really love. And I get a kick out of any time that I get to go back and revisit that stuff. Like with Darth Maul, when we kept going back and making him deeper, that was really a lot of fun for me. I just did this scavenger hunt thing called Gishless. Yeah, you guys know about that? Shatner recruited me. And I got to reprise Aiden a couple times because they needed some line items that would have fit like a vampire. So I got the wardrobe and the fangs of the eyes, and I got to be Aiden for a second, again, which was fun. It felt good to put on the jacket again.
Hey Sam, so knowing that you're a gamer like a lot of us, what's your favorite RPG or video game?
Wow, the list is too broad to just give straight favorites. Because I go all the way back to Atari 2600 or like original D&D back way in the day and all that stuff. So,
That's the least subtle thing I've ever seen in life.
that guy stole my change. Let me just name some favorites. I think all the Elder Scrolls games have been amazing. All of the Fallout games, all the way to 1 and 2, have not disappointed. Pool of Radiance. I'm gonna go back to C64 and Amiga with you guys there. The original Legend of Zelda. Dark Forces, Jedi Knight. There have been, there's just too many to name. Thief, The Dark Project. That game was amazing. That game was so cool. Thief 2 was amazing. Thief 3 was just fairly good. They just, they were almost there. And then Thief 4, they turned it into just the character was so bland in the next Thief game, the most recent one, man. He was so funny in the other games. And they got a different voice actor that just kind of did a caricature of what the original voice actor did. That was disappointing. No, I'm never going to get hired by that company. What? Yeah, right.
What about Uncharted?
Uncharted, yeah, The Last of Us, my God, right? So many great, it's too many to name. In terms of RPGs, check out Fantasy Flight's work with the Star Wars license. Check out the X-Wing game, check out their Edge of the Empire and Age of Rebellion. It's really well done and very different than what you guys are probably used to playing. Really good stuff. You've been waiting for a long time, dude. I gotta set you up. What's up?
Speaking of games, you were in a movie, Gamer. How'd you land that role? Was it a quick one?
Yeah. The movie Gamer was directed and written by my pals Mark Pellegrino and Brian Taylor, and they called me up one day and they said, listen, we want you to come in and play this social worker. I'm like, oh, what's the character? They're like, well, we kind of wrote it for like a 48-year-old Latin woman. Well, we'd like you to do it because we think it might be weird. So that's what they told me. So I'm like, all right, permission to be weird. So I just made my hair look really weird and gave myself glasses and dressed myself up really dorky with the costume designer. And then just did weird things on the take. So, they wanted, it's a story, in this scene, it's about a woman who's trying to get custody of her kid back from the state. And she has to have her case reviewed. And so it's a very straightforward, sad scene, but they just wanted some weird elements in the scene, so they hired me and they wanted me to do, literally in one take in the middle of her line, I just burst out laughing and then stopped and go, yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying. So it was fun to work with those guys.
Hi, Sam.
Hello.
I was wondering if you or Sammy or Megan have kept anything from the Being Human set?
I have the jacket. They gave me fangs. They gave me eyes. I have a chair from the set. Sammy has this roulette wheel thing that he loves, that he always spun. And then Megan has Dog the Catman Dude. He went to a good home. He went to a good home, that guy. He nearly died several times on the set in season 4. Like, there was one point where Kenny is bringing him back to us. Do you guys know what Dog the Catman Dude is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's that big sort of cat dog sculpture with the catcher's mask and the crown that in season 2, I think he's first called out when Bishop goes, "Is that a dog wearing a catcher's mask? Aiden, they're cute." So that we only had one of those things, and we've looked like we don't know where to get another one, right? And in the scene where Kenny brings him back from the party the night before, because Kenny almost kills someone with Dog the Catman, he almost smashes it. And so he comes back and he gives it to me, and I put it on the steps, and the steps were not wide enough to hold him. So in the middle of the take, he falls, and I just sort of kicked my leg out and caught him right here in my heel, and he would have shattered. He got damaged. There were little, pieces that broke off, and they had to fix him up, but he would have been shattered. And considering there's a whole scene at the end of the season where we negotiate who gets to take him, that would have been blown, because we knew that he was going to get a bigger role later on. So yeah, he's the 5th roommate.
Hi. Do you wish you ever lasted longer in The Walking Dead or had a bigger, not like the first cameo?
If you want to read more or hear more than you ever wanted to know about the Walking Dead thing, just look up my name in Walking Dead, and you're going to get smashed in the face with a lot of information. Yeah. That was planned to be something. That was going to be something. And it didn't get to be something because they got rid of Darabont. So, then it was nothing. But it was fun to be there on the set with those guys. Those are all buddies of mine, Frank and Greg Nicotero and all those guys. So, yeah. But if you want to know what that's about, why I was in there, why I was in the tank, just look up my name in Walking Dead. You'll find out.
Is it okay if I ask you real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's difficult to come into an already established character like with Aiden and having it be remade for American television, or do you get to have any input? Or?
Well, that was the thing. We hadn't seen the British series. We'd only seen the first episode, so the character wasn't established. It was ours to do with as we pleased. And that was why we stayed away from watching the British series while we did the first season, because we wanted it to be our show, our characters. Once we finished season 1, I bought everyone the box sets and we all watched the British series. But that was the thing. They were always intended to be different characters. Aiden is not Mitchell, Josh is not George, nor is Nina. Yeah, so no.
And with the finale, I feel like, without spoilers being involved, it was very much for the fans, but did you feel that way? Did you have any input, or was it?
We had a lot of input on a lot of things. Doesn't mean that we wrote it, though. But we had a lot of suggestions, and sometimes they took them. We had a very, very collaborative environment by the time that show was done, which was awesome. We got to exercise a lot of stuff. I mean, to give you an example of input, you'd read in the script. Little spoiler. I'm going to give you a little spoiler for season 4. It's the beginning of the season. There's in the script, Sap and Son's van pulls up, and they grab Aiden and they pull him in the van. And I'm like, all right, that's not going to work. Because I'm like, what do you mean they just pull him in? At this point, all the old vampires are dead. Aiden is now one of the elder vampires. And the rules that we always worked with, and we talked about them a lot off screen, we never talked about them on screen, was Aiden was weaker than other vampires because he was on bagged blood, he wasn't drinking live blood. So there was all this talk of Aiden being unstoppable and this awesome warrior, but he was a shadow of that because he wasn't drinking the real stuff. There was another rule where the older a vampire gets, the tougher he gets, right? This is why Bishop always could just, kick everyone's ass. So now we're in a situation where all the vampires have died off, and the only ones that are around are these super young ones. And, who've only been vampires for a few years. Aiden's been a vampire for over 200, right? So I'm like, look, live blood or not, Aiden should wipe the floor with these guys. These guys should not be able you wrote the script and he just gets grabbed and pulled to a van. No, there's no way. There's no way. We have to figure something out. And also, what do you think about letting Aiden win a fight? To which the showrunner said, well, he wins fights all the time. I'm like, no, he doesn't. Well, no, he does. I'm like, he gets his ass kicked all the time. Like, no, he doesn't. I'm like, do you watch the show? It's pretty good. So at that point, they're like, well, you realize he has to lose this fight because they do have to get him in that van to get him. I'm like, yes, I was getting to that. Hold on. So I'm like, what if Aiden wins the fight, fights these guys, beats them up pretty handily, and right as the audience is going, yay, he finally won, a third guy shows up with a gun, puts it to his head, and Aiden goes, no, not the head, not the head. I hate that, you know? And then they laugh, like, oh, that's kind of a good idea. I'm like, yeah, let's just do that. So that's, you know, they oftentimes would let us take an idea and make it a little bit more specific. And I love the idea of, you know, after season 3 where he gets shot in the head and tries to fight a guy with a bullet in his brain. Thought it'd be funny for another guy to put a gun in his head. He goes, no, okay, you got me. So.
How frustrating was that for you, getting your ass kicked?
I thought it was great. I thought that the audience would sympathize more with him if he kept getting beat up and kept getting back up only to get beat up more. I was all for it, you know. And I'll tell you, shooting a scene where you get your ass kicked is a lot harder than shooting a scene where you're kicking everyone's ass. Because you take a lot more falls, and you're hitting the ground really hard, and it's harder work. But I was for it. I was always like, if he can get hurt, let's hurt him. So.
Sam, you mentioned Star Wars a few times professionally, but you're also a huge fan. Can you talk a little bit about just becoming, you know, being, I've heard you talk about Star Wars many times, and you're on a level of beyond many other people that you run into. Talk a little bit about being a Star Wars fan.
I've been a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, my head is a Rolodex of useless information regarding Star Wars. It really is. And there's probably not a lot you could ask me that I wouldn't be able to answer to. And so working for them, you know, when Force Unleashed happened, it was mind-blowing. I'll put it to you this way. When I got hired, when they told me I had the role, it was the same week that I got the Mist. So it was a good week. I got the Mist because, this is a separate story, I'll just do it. I got the Mist because I walked the right woman across the street, true story. Happened to be a casting director and said, do you want to read for something? And that's kind of how the Mist happened. And then Star Wars happened that same week. And for literally 2 weeks after that, you know how you have a song stuck in your head? Well, in my head, for 2 weeks, it was like the Star Wars theme was stuck in my head. And if I could ever get it out, the only other song I could get in there was you know, that everything. It was all Star Wars all the time. So arriving at Lucasfilm, seeing Skywalker Ranch, seeing ILM, working at ILM, doing all those things, I was way too enthusiastic. So much so that on 1 or 2 occasions, me and my buddy David Collins had to be told to shut up by the director. He was too excited. And we all had fun just trying to figure out what that character was. You know, and we came up with like a geek formula for what Starkiller was meant to be. Because I'm like, you know, he's kind of the photo negative of Luke Skywalker. So what is he? Like, we figured out literally a formula. He's 2 parts. How was this? Let me think of this. He's 2 parts Han Solo. He's 1 part Indiana Jones, because there's a difference. He's 1 part Darth Maul, and he's 1 part Luke Skywalker. That's what we figured The Apprentice was. And we kept going on those notes to try to, I don't know, subtly give Star Wars fans like a touchstone for what it is they were seeing. And the other thing was trying to design the performances to make it sound a little bit more 1970s, you know? Like the whole thing, George Lucas, they make fun of him because the only directions he would give on the original Star Wars was faster, more intense. You know, that was it. Cut. Yeah, do it faster, more intense, or you're fired. And when you see the movie, you know, they all make fun of him for that, but when you see the movie, that's exactly the right direction for that film. Because it's an old style movie, it's a 1940s movie, really. And it's all about big personalities filling the frame. You never go in for a close-up, it's all out here. And so you have to really project out, you know? I mean, can you imagine if the movie was paced like the way that we do things sometimes these days? You know, all intense and subtle, you know? Can't get out that way. Looks like you managed to cut off our own escape route. Maybe you would like it back in your cell, Your Highness. Oh, no, sorry. You can do that, but that's not very 1940s, and it's also not very exciting. Or you can do, can't get out that way. Looks like you managed to cut off our own escape route. Maybe you like it back in your cell, Your Highness. Why you? You know, like you want that. 1940s pace of the dialogue, so we try to do that before something's so loud. Star Wars is always better when it's fast and loud in terms of performance. It's Buster Crabbe, it's Flash Gordon from the 30s. You know, that's what it is. You know, which you guys should watch that. It's awesome. And so then that led to Clone Wars calling me up, and they said, "Hey, do you want to be on Clone Wars?" I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "It's a really cool role." I'm like, "I already said yes." And then I kept hearing, "No, it's a really cool role." I'm like, "No, they might be serious about this," because I thought I was just doing a few lines in an episode, and it was just kind of a stunt casting thing. And then it turns out I arrived there, and they go, "Well, no, you're playing the dark side of the Force." The character called the Sun, but the whole point is you are the dark side of the Force. So there was this, I was just meeting Dave Filoni, I was super intimidated because all these people are voice actors, they know what they're doing, I don't. They know their characters, I don't. And thankfully the Sun didn't have that much to say in the first Mortis episode. So, I did it, and then after we did it, I went to Dave, I'm like, "I'm kind of worried, man. Do you think it's going to sound too much like Starkiller?" And Dave Filoni, just pulling an answer out of his ass, goes, "Well, I don't know, Sam. I mean, I feel like Starkiller had a connection with the dark side of the Force, so, I mean, if you hear a little bit of Starkiller in his voice, I think that's fine." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went home, and I'm like, connection to the dark side of the Force, and so you could hear Starkiller's voice. You should hear everyone's voice in this character. You should have moments of every villain that has a connection to the dark side in the Sun's voice. So if the Sun had a line like, "Sister, so I see you brought a friend," you would do it like this. You'd go, "Sister, so I see you brought a friend." Little bit of Vader in the beginning, little bit of Palpatine in the end. You know, it had to be that kind of thing. And I started doing that in the studio for the next episode, and Dave Filoni stopped at some point. He goes, "I think I see what you're doing." I'm like, "Yeah, should I do it less?" He goes, No, do it more. These are the episodes to do it, because the episodes, as George wanted them, he wanted the Mortis episodes to be all of the events of all the Star Wars movies, but mixed up and presented in different ways, so that you had, these echoes of things that were yet to come or things that have already happened. So if the character had a line like "Join me," you needed to say, "Join me, and together we will destroy this emperor you see in your visions," and all this stuff. So then once I did that, Dave Filoni was like, "Hey, what do you think about this whole thing about Darth Maul being alive?" I'm like, "I think it's crazy." You know, and he's like, "Yeah. Anyway, there might be something for you down the road." I'm like, "Oh, like a bounty hunter?" He's like, "Yeah." And then a year later, he's like, "Hey, Witwer." I'm like, "Dave, what's up?" He's like, "I need Darth Maul. Can you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I could do that." But you have to give him confidence, because he's like, "I know it's a real risky move, and I need to know that you can do this if I'm going to hire you." And I'm like, "I can do it, man. No problem." I don't know what I'm doing. So then after that, I made like a loop of the few lines, like the 2 lines that Darth Maul had in Phantom Menace. And also, there was a tone poem for a commercial that Darth Maul did. Do you guys remember this? Around Phantom Menace, there were these tone poems where there'd be like a Phantom Menace commercial, and you hear Liam Neeson go, "It would be a hard life, a life without reward, he would have a whole tone poem or whatever. And Darth Maul had one where he goes, "Fear attracts the fearful, the strong, the weak, the innocent, the corrupt." He had this whole thing. And so I made a tape loop of that and the 2 lines he had in Phantom Menace and just practiced it. And I'm like, all right, well, that's where it's going to start. But this takes place 10 years later, so Darth Maul can sound different, but he's got to start here. And then we'll change it from there. So that's it. Anyway, long answer to the Star Wars question.
Got a lot of press as being one of the biggest hits for sci-fi among female viewers. How aware were you of that, and did it change the way that you approached the rest of the show?
I sucked in my cheeks a lot more after that. That was the last time I saw the sunset. Come on! It wasn't until Fight Club that I could even handle that guy after that. We were never really aware of anything that was going on in terms of people's reaction. We would go to these cons and get reaction and stuff, but when I'm walking on the street and someone goes, "Hey, being human," it's like, "Oh, that's right. I worked on a TV show." But we were happy. We were happy that they had that reaction. That we had a large, like a 60% female skewing audience. That was a cool thing. I know Sci-Fi was really happy about that. I blame Megan Rath. I think, you know, she brought in the females. Do we have time for like quick ones? Speed round? Anything? Yes, no answers?
Unfortunately, no. We've already gone 5 minutes over.
Oh. You guys are very patient. Thank you very much.
Please feel free to stop by and see Sam at his table.